with a Business is brought to you by Audible.com.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Married with a Business. I'm Craig.
And I'm Allison.
And we're Married with a Business. We're here to share tips, tricks, stories about what it's like to be a married couple that own a business, work together all day, and then hang out together all night.
Yes, all night, all day, all night. Is that a song?
All night long?
Yeah.
Lionel Richie?
Yes. Craig, how are you doing other than me being crazy?
I mean, I'm still a little frustrated at you.
Why?
Can I be honest? So we're sitting on the couch last night.
No.
I'm comfortable.
All right.
I'm comfortable on the couch.
Wait, do you really want to share this with the world?
I mean, I think it's kind of funny.
All right.
So you say to me, hey, sorry to do this, but it's really, can you fix your socks? They're askew. It's bothering me. And my socks were askew. I will concur.
The heel of your foot was on the top of your foot.
So my socks had gotten a little,
It was driving me batty.
But I was comfortable. And then I was finally, you said it, and then all I could think about was that my socks weren't right, and then I had to fix my socks.
You told me no. You were like, no, I'm comfortable, and I couldn't do it. I was like twitching.
I said no. I was like, I'm not gonna. I'm comfortable. My feet are comfortable.
So friends, there's a little insight into us.
Yeah, there's a little bit of our crazy right there. So
but you fixed it, and then I felt better.
Yeah, I fixed it. That was a little bit of your OCD coming out right there, huh?
Well, Craig, this, even though I didn't think of it at the time, this is a perfect segue to this week's guests, Robert and Kaylee Fukui from Power Couples by Design, because, sometimes they talk about the tension between business life and maybe personal life and personal life.
Personal life and sock life,
yeah.
Maybe. No, they were great. This, I have to say, again, over 100 episodes now. We can say that. Last week was our 100th episode. It was fun to do that with you.
Woohoo!
I can say that this might be one of my favorite interviews. They have a new book out called Tandem, and it's about, exactly that, about working together, in a marriage and having the work-life balance struggle that a marriage entrepreneurs tend to have.
Yeah, they're working together every day as entrepreneurs and with entrepreneurial couples, and they're sharing what they've learned and how to deal with issues that they've faced.
Yeah, so take a minute and listen to our interview with Robert and Kaylee. Hey everybody, we are happy to have Robert and Kaylee Fukui on the show this week, authors of Tandem, the Married Entrepreneur's Guide for a Greater Work-Life Balance, and owners of Couples by Design. Guys, thank you so much for coming on this week.
Hey, thanks for having us, Craig and
Yes,
Allison.
thank you.
So let's start out. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship, about how you guys met and became a couple?
Yeah, I fished her online, so a dating site. And note to those, I don't know, everybody's probably married on this call, but if you want to pass along some advice to singles that are doing internet dating, it's all about the picture and the profile, right? And so, and I'm in marketing, so it's all about branding. So I had a picture on my profile of me skiing in the Swiss Alps. So I was actually in the Matterhorn, and I was on the top of the gondola lift. And so there's a picture of me, and on the left there's a line and a border. It's Italy and Switzerland. I was right on the border, and then off on my shoulder is the actual Matterhorn in the distance.
Oh, wow.
And Kaylee's half Swiss. So here we go. that's what I call
it.
That's awesome.
So that's how we met, was on a dating site, basically.
Wow, that's great. And so you guys met, you guys had, separate careers, like you said, I think Kaylee, you were in banking and Robert, you just said marketing. How did you guys end up coming to this whole idea of helping out couples and married entrepreneurs?
So yeah, having a business, doing things on my own was never on my radar growing up. My dad's advice was go to school, get good grades, stay out of debt, and get a good job. So that's what I did. I worked in Fortune 500 companies in marketing and sales about 25 years. And then it was really about 6 years ago is when I left to do consulting full time. But before that, I started exploring it. And really, I don't know if Kaylee had anything to do with it, but I remember when we were dating, she said to me that, I can see you having your own business. And I said, no way.
Yeah, because I'm from third generation entrepreneur family and I grew up in a family business. And so you're just around a lot of those people, I think, a lot of times. And I just saw it in Robert. And then he said no. And I was thinking, really? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? And he's thinking, no, I'm supposed to go to corporate.
Yeah. So, and, I enjoyed it. Had a good job, good position, had a lot of favor there. You make a lot of money and a lot of good benefits and stuff. And so a lot of security there. But about 10 years into our marriage is when I decided or started exploring the idea of maybe having a business, but I didn't know what it would be. So I just started, checking off the list of all the ones I didn't want. And so that didn't get me anywhere. So I decided, why don't I just do some consulting work and I'll just consult with different types of business and then maybe I'll find something along the way. So it's almost like paid market research is how I looked at it.
Yeah.
But it ended up, I just really enjoyed the consulting. And then what happened is because I primarily targeted small privately held business, usually doing about $30 million in revenue and under. And they're asking me for marketing help. But the first thing I noticed going into these business was they're working way too hard. And they're just more stressed out than they needed to be, because coming from my background in Fortune 500, we had a lot of systems and procedures in place that made things run as efficiently as you could, right? And so I just noticed the inefficiencies in the business. So I said, it's really not a marketing issue. You really have an operational issue and a pricing and a margin issue. And so I really got more in depth into just the general business consulting. And then one client after another, because most business owners are married, I think statistically it's around 71%, that inevitably their personal life comes up. And then I just started naturally coaching them, because in our dating life, we actually went to counseling like before we got married. And that's part of the early dating story was 1 month into our relationship. I mean, I just knew her for a month. She suggested I go to counseling. And so that's in the book. But so anyways, all that to say, I had, background in counseling in a sense, just by going through it. And so I just started giving them tools just relationally. And it was one client after another. And that's when I decided, hey, I think there's an issue going on here. There's a work-life balance issue. They don't know how to really do business a little bit more efficiently. And because of that, it's really affecting their home life. And the stress in the home life is also affecting their performance at work. So it's this vicious cycle. And I just kind of started doing some research, and I said, there's really nothing out there that really hits both issues head on. There's marriage counseling and there's business consulting and coaching, but nobody's addressing the whole pie all at once. Because if you only get help on one side or the other, there's still the other side that's being stressed, right? So how do we deal with this holistically? And so that's about 6 years ago about 4 years ago is when I just tapped Kaylee on the shoulder and said, hey, let's look into this. Let's explore some. Let's test it out with some of our clients and see if there's some, a desire or demand for this. So that's kind of how it evolved.
Yeah. And I think a lot of, entrepreneurs that are married and maybe their significant other isn't working in the business don't realize that business is still such an important part to that significant other. And that, even though they may not be an employee, and a lot of times, I mean, like Allison and I, we both work in the business and it is our livelihood together. But there are a lot of times, and we see it with a lot of our friends who own businesses, they sometimes forget that it's some of those decisions that they have to make, their spouse needs to be a part of. And some of that, life balance, their spouse needs to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
What are your guys' individual roles in the company? What does one of you more towards take care of the books or the marketing? How do you guys divide up the workload?
Yes, I'm kind of a visionary. I'm the visionary, the planner, strategic planner, developing content, whether it's for courses or just developing our coaching material, whatever, and do a lot of outreach. And then Kaylee handles, I call her my friend maker, because she can make friends just anywhere. Like when she first asked me if she wanted, this is before even what we're doing right now, but when I first started consulting, she asked me, how can I help? And actually, I didn't want her working in part and being part of the business, not because I didn't want her. It was actually, I didn't think it was good for the marriage. So that's ironic, right? And so I said, no, I got this. And it wasn't because I didn't want her help. It was just merely I didn't want it to ruin the relationship. But she persisted. And so I said, hey, why don't you just go make friends? And
I'm like, what?
That was just my way.
Really, I want to roll.
Yeah, that was my way of saying networking or marketing, but I didn't want to give those terms. I said, just go make friends, because we can be in line at Starbucks and I just want to get my order and get out. She will start chatting people up. Next thing you know, we're invited over for dinner to some stranger's house.
Well, and I just think of it as, I don't even think of it as a gift or something you're good at. I just figure probably everybody can do that. So when he said, go make friends, I'm like, no, I want a real job, something that I can make a difference, And he's like, no, really. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And then I thought about it. I'm like, oh, yeah, I could totally do this.
Yeah. So, I mean, the reason why we're on this podcast is because of her, right?
Right.
Yeah, right.
Go make friends and go find us an opportunity.
So, Kaylee, talk a little bit more about that. Like, so what has it been like the last couple of years where you guys now are working more together? And like, so how do you guys find, I know I'm sure you counsel people and help people all the time, but how do you guys find that work-life balance and like when it's time to focus on promoting the business and the book and when it's time to have a date and just be with each other?
Well, we have a weekly meetup meeting. So we get together 3:00 on Mondays and we talk about the calendar. We share a calendar. We talk about our finances. We talk about what's coming up this week. If it's going to be a crazy week, then Robert will say like, okay, we're going to have to work a lot. So next weekend, let's do something really fun. Let's pencil that in on the calendar. Because in our house, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen. And then during the meetings, we also will give each other an encouraging word, which is really nice. I love that part.
That's how we start the meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that idea.
And then what other stuff do we talk about during our meeting?
Well, we have some different categories, and it's just
Our goals, our vision. So we keep on track because it's easy for me to get off track. So we'll just like, okay, this is where we're going, and this is what it's going to look like. This is what I'm working on this week, and he'll tell me what he's working on, and then we kind of go from
and then
there.
in the calendars, we have our non-negotiables, right? When you talk about work-life balance, the first thing you do on your calendar is prioritize the priority, which is the date night things, our weekly meetings, just the weekenders, we're going to, vacations, whatever, just those things that keeps us connected, just the bare minimum. And then that way, business or work or life just doesn't overtake it. Because a lot of times what we say as our priorities aren't even on the calendar, but all the business stuff and all the volunteer work and all that, which are good. But at the same time, because you don't have any guardrails around your priorities in life, that naturally your calendar just fills up with everything else. And so when it comes to work-life balance, you really have to understand what are the non-negotiables you need in your life so that regardless of how busy you are in business or volunteer or life, that we always have these bare minimums that's going to make sure we're connected as husband and wife and we feel connected and fulfilled.
And that can look different for each couple. We sit down with them and ourselves as well, and we come up with a plan, a vision of what we want it to look like for us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the challenges that we have and that people say, oh, you're together all the time. Don't you get sick of each other? We're in the same space all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we are connected all the time. How do you guys manage that? Like being together, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're connecting on an emotional level.
Yeah, I mean that exactly. So we don't take working together as that connection time, right? It's business. And then when it comes to personal time, just become intentional. It's like when is like the weekly meetings are that time to really be intent to connect. There's nothing else going on where it's dedicated to us. And then of course our date nights are just personal, no business conversations, that kind of stuff. Dinner table, same thing, no dinner conversations. So we have these boundaries between business and home. And so even though like our office is at home, but we know the periods when it's shut off and it's no business talk, and we have to keep each other accountable because sometimes at the dinner table, business stuff comes up, and then we just have these little looks at each other. Go, oh, okay. So you have to keep each other accountable on these things, right? It's not like you have these boundaries and all that and it's perfect all the time. We all kind of will gravitate towards business discussions or some other discussion. And so it's just up to the two of us to just hold each other accountable.
And then I also have some cards from our friends, the Tegans, and it's like different questions to ask each other. Because sometimes, and I've even taken them to dinner with us, because sometimes it's like, okay, we want to go out and have fun, but I don't want to be talking about work. You know what I mean? So it's like, you have to be really intentional. So I'll bring the cards.
Starters.
Yeah, I'll bring that and then we'll talk about that. So what was your childhood? What was your first Christmas gift that you remember that you loved when you were a child? So all these different things to get you thinking about other things. Another thing I want to do is I just read this book that I like, and I'm like, oh, we should read it together and talk about it. So it's not work all the time. Those are just some little suggestions.
So you guys, speaking of books, you guys have taken all of this experience of working with other couples and other businesses, and in the fall you had your own book launch called Tandem. Tell us a little bit about that process and how you came to write a book together and what the book is about.
Well, how we decided was, I don't know exactly what happened, but I know we'd had several people say, "Oh, when are you going to write the book? When are you going to write the book?" And I said no. Because
there's a lot involved.
Yeah, there's a lot involved in writing a book if you've ever written a book. And so finally, early last year, we just started talking about it and go, well, yeah, let's write the book. Because like I said, there's really not a lot of resources out there for this issue. And even when I go on Amazon, I said, really just nothing.
Yeah.
I go, most of the books for entrepreneur couples are more relationship focused, which is important, but there's nothing that also deals about the business. And so what we're dealing with is that tension between business and life, because a lot of entrepreneurs feel that in order to succeed in business, you have to sacrifice your personal life, that you're going to have to give up one for the other. And so we said, no, you can do both well. We just got to show you how. So there's the relationship side of the book. This book is split in half, relationship and then business. See how to do better as husband and wife, whether you work together or not, how to have vision, how to have date nights and all that. But then on the business side is how do you work smarter, not harder, basically, right? How do you become more efficient with everything you do, from marketing to operations to you as a leader? And what are you doing to actually stifle growth of the business, but also you're probably maybe doing more than you should be doing.
And then that's cutting into your family time.
Yeah.
What do you think is the one takeaway from the book that you hope everybody has?
I think don't accept the status quo, that you can do better, whatever it is, whatever your goals is for life and business and marriage, you can do it better. Because I think that's where people get stuck with this imbalance, is because they're just accepting life the way it is and said, this is how it's got to be. We're going to have to struggle, put everything in the business, and whatever's left over in life, that's what we get. Right. And we just deal with it. It's like to just accept the status quo, but question everything. And everything, any vision, whatever you have, go for it. And if there's a better life that you want, then talk about it as a couple, and then set a plan and just go for it. Because we're mostly goal-oriented people. We put something out there, and if we work together, we can achieve it. But we don't think that work-life balance is possible. So I guess.
Well, and I want to say too, don't be afraid to ask for help, because as entrepreneurs, we're wearing all these hats and we think we're great and we're fabulous at it. I hate to tell you, we're not. We can't do everything to be the best at everything. And so sometimes getting help with new, fresh eyes to come in and help you and say like, oh, have you thought about doing this? How about doing this? A different direction. Because a lot of times we just stay doing things the same old.
Right.
And we don't seek help to find out how to be more efficient.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I noticed the book Tandem has a picture of a tandem bike on the front of it. Are you guys fans of tandem? Do we ride a lot of tandem bikes together, guys?
We've only ridden once. It was
I saw some pictures online.
Yeah, a guy in one of our mastermind groups, he says my mastermind group actually came up with a title.
Yeah.
Because I said, hey, I need a title for this thing. And they came up with the title. And so they throw up all these ideas. And one of the guys says, we actually have a tandem bike. So you can ride it and get pictures on it. Well, the problem is he lives in Houston and we're in Pasadena. But on our book tour,
we did a 6-week book tour.
We stopped in Houston. We definitely drove around the country for 6 weeks, and we stopped in Houston and we rode our first tandem bike.
I actually got him on the bike because you guys, he was so afraid to get on the bike with me because he thinks, I don't know what I'm going to do with her. Like if I put her in the back, he's afraid I'm not going to pedal. If he puts me in the front and we're at the beach, I'm going to be looking at the ocean and the dolphins. And he's afraid I'm going to run over a rollerblader. So he's like, I do not want to get on with you.
And there's a lot of metaphors of working together when you ride a tandem bike. I kind of figured it, but I realized that when we got on it, even that short jaunt around the neighborhood, that you really got to know how to work together on a tandem bike to do well.
That's great.
I love that.
How was it though, Kaylee? How was it like writing a book together? Like, how did that process go?
The process I think it went pretty good. We had some help along the way. Robert was able to outline it. I'm sure we've hit some bumps along the road, things we had to talk about, work through. It made our marketing message, I think, even tighter because just seeing it in paper and trying to get your thoughts down, I think it went really well.
Yeah, because we had a ghostwriter. and that was the only reason why this thing crossed the finish line. I knew it wasn't going to happen if we didn't have a ghostwriter. So she was almost like a coach. Like that's what helped the process a little bit more streamlined and smooth. So she was the guide basically, and she would ask us questions. And so, to Kaylee's point about making our marketing message tighter, because the questions she was asking, we were like, it really made us think a little bit more. But all that to say is, it went pretty good, and a lot of it because of her and that guidance. Because otherwise, this project could have been a 5-year project.
Yeah, she kept things moving along. Otherwise, it's hard to take a whole year or 6 months off or whatever and write a book.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys have a lot of resources on your website. You have a podcast, you have free courses, you have coaching, you have paid-for courses. What do you think is the best way for couples who are thinking that, okay, maybe we do need some coaching and we do need some more resources? What's the best way for them to get started with you guys?
Well, just go on the website, marriedentrepreneur.co, and you can look around and see what strikes your fancy. And then let's hit the let's talk button and schedule a 30-minute call with us. It's complimentary. And we can discuss if you just want to just simply pick our brain, or you want to see what it's like to have coaching, or, be in a group or individual or whatever. We can talk about it. And then, of course, like I said, we have podcasts and other material on the website too that could help. And the book itself is like a course, because it actually has a QR code on each chapter, and there's a video for each chapter with a digital workbook that goes along with it. So if you like self-study courses, the book is not just a book, but it's also kind of a self-study course built in.
That's great. That's great. Tell us how people can find the book.
The website, marriedentrepreneur.co, but it also has its own website, thetandembook.com.
Awesome.
And for your listeners, you can download for free the first chapter of how we met in our story.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. So, Robert, Kaylee, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. And we wish you guys the best of luck with the book.
Thanks,
you
guys.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having us on.
I think that was so interesting. And I said to Kaylee after the interview, I was like, well, I feel like I could just talk to you forever, because you guys have so many insights into things that are happening with us and with other people we know.
Well, this is one of those interviews that we've done, Allison, and we put a time constraint on our interviews. We tried to make the show a certain length. And this was one of those interviews where I think we could have talked to them and had a 2-hour-long episode.
Yeah, I keep telling you, all these people are my new best friends.
I love the perspective that they have, and sort of the 10,000 foot view that they initially take on it, and then kind of whittling it down from there. And one of the things about the book that I thought was really interesting is there's sort of 2 sections of the book. There's the marriage section and the business section, kind
right.
of.
Well, and I think that sometimes you and I talk a lot about the business section as in our own interactions with each other, and so sometimes thinking about the marriage portion is just as important, and that's why I like how they split up those 2 sections.
Well, and for us, I think we always preach having great work-life balance, and I'm sure all married business owners have this challenge. Sometimes you do as I say, not as I do sometimes. And I think sometimes we do have good balance, and I think it's, you go through seasons, even within a month, you go through seasons of how your work-life balance is. But I think it's really good for you to be able to, look at it.
Yeah, it's nice to have a tangible resource that you can use to get on the same page, to have a resource to go back and look at how to resolve conflicts either at marriage or at work. Isn't everybody's goal to work smarter and not harder, and to increase our profits and our revenues without increasing our sales? So I like that, because I'm a very tactical person, and part of the reason I like doing the podcast is I like everybody to go home with something to do, and think that's what's nice about the book Tandem is there are practical resources and exercises of things for you to do.
Yeah, both in your relationship and to the bottom line, and to increase, grow your business and increase margins, all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's definitely something to check out. I love the fact, talking to them, we've talked about it before, and I see it with almost every couple, is that balance of who does what in the relationship between Robert and Kaylee.
Yeah, and I think they have we've had people who have had great titles before, but I love how when Kaylee was talking about where's my fit in the business? And he was like, go be the friend maker.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know what that means.
Right.
But she is. She's very personal. That's how how she and I got connected. She reached out to me and was like, hey, I like the podcast. I think that we could really connect. And so that's how we became friends, because she literally was reaching out and making connections with people.
Well, and I think it was also like, for me, we've said this all along, like there are a lot of husbands and wives that own and operate business together that, maybe the wife started, it could be like ours where it's a third generational family business of yours that I've become involved in, or the husband started the business and the wife got involved with it.
Or the wife started the business and the husband got involved.
Same thing.
Like
right.
Designs by Jamie.
Yeah. I think that, you look at that and most of the time what happens, I think a lot of time what happens is the business grows that both couples need to be involved in it a lot of times. And I think that what I think is great about it though, Allison, is that, we've always said there aren't a ton of resources out there. There aren't a lot of places for people to go. And if it's coaching or if it's a podcast or if it's a book, there aren't a ton of resources like there are for other parts of being a business owner.
Right. And they also run some consulting programs through Power Couples by Design where they, to equip married entrepreneurs to build thriving marriages and prosperous businesses.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is we've talked about it for years of, having some sort of mastermind group or some sort of peer networking or something to help you in your business. What they are doing, with the consulting and the working with, and now they're starting to work on having some of those groups put together, will help you in your marriage and in your business. Yeah,
we've made it up as we went along, just like they did, and we've spent 20 years learning the hard way. How great would we be and would our business be if we had a resource like this, like our podcast or their program, when we were in our 20s.
Yeah.
I think that our mastermind groups have been vital in our growth, but it would have been really cool to have somebody in a program or podcast that could speak to our specific need.
Yeah. So check it out, marriedentrepreneur.co. That's marriedentrepreneur.co. And that's where their Power Couples by Design is. You can find the book there, Tandem, The Married Entrepreneur's Guide for Greater Work-Life Balance. You can find them and how they can help you with consulting, and there's tips and tricks, and their podcast as well is on there. So check that out too. And it's a great place to start if you're looking for, a jumping off point of we're working together as a husband and wife, and we need to find more things to help us.
And our website, marriedwithabusiness.net, also has a lot of great resources of things that we've found that have been helpful, past episodes, links to books that we like, and lots of other things to check out.
Yeah, you can also go on there and fill out, if you'd like to, maybe you might think you're a good fit to be on our show. Fill out the form there, and you could be a guest on our show, marriedwithabusiness.net. Also, look for us online. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at BizMarried, or you can just search Facebook. We're on there. We post a lot, and we share some things on there as well, resources and other things. And also, don't forget, check out audible.com. Audible.com is a great place. I'm a big guy. I like listening to books. I'm not a big reader. Audible.com is a great place to find some of these books. I know Tandem is not on Audible yet. They should find somebody with a silky smooth voice to read the book and get it posted on Audible. I don't know. Do you know somebody that could do that?
I don't know, Craig. You might be able to do that.
I don't know. Maybe. But anyways, Tandem's not on there yet, but there are plenty of books out there that you should listen to. Check out audibletrial.com/bizmarried to get a free 30 days of Audible on us. You can find that link on our website. You can find some of those books that we love to listen to as well on our website, marriedwithabusiness.net. And you get a free 30 days of Audible on us. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We got some great shows coming up. A few more. We're halfway through this season. A few more shows coming up. But we appreciate you listening. And remember, not only is it important to focus on your business, but also your marriage, because we're married with a business.